Hurd of Texas. He's a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, you were in the first set of hearings in the Intel Committee. Now that it's gone to the Judiciary Committee and they've put forward these two articles of impeachment, do you think these two things actually match up?
They don't, and there was no discussion of these two in the intelligence hearing. It was always about quid pro quo and bribery and extortion, and I don't think those three words are even mentioned in these two articles of impeachment. And ultimately, I think today is going to be long in the Judiciary Committee, and Democrats are going to vote this out off the floor next week, and we know how this is going to ultimately end in the Senate. And the only way things get done here in D.C. is actually in a bipartisan way, and Kevin McCarthy's right. The only bipartisan thing about this is the bipartisan opposition to these two articles of impeachment.
Some Democrats had expressed surprise that you were a no vote after those Intel Committee hearings. Do you know of any other Republicans who might be waffling at all? As Kevin McCarthy said, do the Republicans even need to whip their side?
Yeah, I haven't heard, and ultimately for me, this was about finding facts. You know, people that have been trying to impeach the president since January 2017. Every time they see a new fact, they think, aha, this is an example of impeachment. People that love them, every piece is an example of exoneration. I was just trying to get to the facts, and to me, there was no evidence to suggest bribery or extortion. And when it comes to abuse of power, I wish we were having a broader conversation on the abuse of power that Inspector General Horowitz found out in his report on those 4 FISA applications that were used on Carter Page. I think that is something that all Americans should ultimately be concerned with, and we should be spending time trying to understand that to prevent this from happening in the future.
So you have an intelligence background before you ran for Congress. You, of course, served your country in that capacity. The foreign intelligence surveillance applications and the court, possibly under some pressure to be reviewed and maybe even reformed. Do you think that it will survive after this process? Because you have people like yourself or maybe even Senator Ben Sasse who said yesterday, I've spent a lot of time defending the FISA process and defending the FISA court, but to find out that there were these abuses was eye-opening.
Look, some of these abuses are outrageous, to be frank, and I don't know why Chairman Schiff is not upset about being lied to by members of the team that investigated this, Crossfire Hurricane Team, which is what the FBI refers that to. The FISA collection, to be able to get evidence on people that may be potentially involved in espionage and terrorism is important, but this is an incredible power that should be used, and we should be making sure that we're up to every standard to use this power. And we found 17 examples of where information was omitted or incorrect. And it changed. The one that's most outrageous to me is that Carter Page was working for another U.S. intelligence organization, and because of that activity, the folks on the Crossfire Hurricane team believed he was working with the Russians. To me, that's absolutely outrageous. And the fact that they knew that information before the first FISA application was provided is crazy. And the fact that a lawyer actually doctored an email. And look, I think one of the great things about the Horowitz report is it shows the importance of our inspector generals. I think Mr. Horowitz did an incredible job of white gloving this entire activity. But the one thing that was missing in there is why was there 17 examples of information being withheld or doctored?
Well, we'll continue to follow that. I know that you will as well, Congressman.